Good evening, welcome to Raconteurs News. Because did it work for you? It worked, didn't it, that time? You heard it, didn't
Yeah, but you know what it did? It
What?
started off going really fast. It started off late, but then it went really fast, like until it got caught up, and then it got to the end. So yeah,
It's a good job it's not live. We can edit that bit out.
we can. It is live, of course. Good evening, welcome to Raconteurs News with myself, Jason Holmes, and Ade Hardy on this the 21st of April 2020. It's 29 years to the day since Sheffield Wednesday beat Manchester United in the League Cup final to be the last Sheffield team to win a trophy, an actual trophy, not a nearby thing. So that's not a dig at anybody. Good evening, Ade. How are you, mate? Have you had a good day in lockdown?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I've had to get a bit annoyed with one of my neighbours because he decided he was going to kick another neighbour's dog. So
right,
and it just happened to be the little dog that I look after. So he'd better watch it because otherwise he'll get his fucking window smashed in. Anyway, other than that, I'm fine, mate. I'm lovely.
This is a lockdown. It's not affecting anybody at all mentally. I mean, we called it mental nuclear war yesterday. I think that's exactly what it is. Well, we've got our guest tonight. We're really looking forward to this. We've only got him for an hour tonight due to some child issues and things like that. They require his time a lot more than we do. So we're pleased to get an hour out of him tonight. So good evening, Mark Devlin. How are you, my friend?
Hi, fellas. Well, I'm not great, to be honest. Not going to lie. I don't take kindly to being forcibly imprisoned in my own home. I've never been much of a one for martial law and house arrest and the taking away of my natural-born rights to freedom of movement. So I'm not great. I'll be great when all this bullshit that we're currently undergoing ends, if it ever does. But until then, I'm going to be someone that's under duress and a great deal of stress, as I am now. And I think I'm probably speaking for a lot of people in being honest about it like that.
Yeah, it is. It's. I mean, for me, I've been like I was saying before, and I've been in house for nearly 2 years, just about. Apart from occasionally going out, and the occasion when I'd learned to walk on my new leg, and then my other leg decided to start messing about. So I've been locked up, but I can't work out how it would be for somebody. I'm like my dad. Take my dad, for example. My dad's 70. Just in February, he fell out of a tree at 70 years old. He's someone who does things all the time. Now, I know that when he was in hospital, because he broke 23 out of his 24 ribs and had to have operations and all sorts of stuff. So we're in a bad way for a couple of weeks. And then he's just about getting ready to be able to move again and do stuff, because he's somebody that's always been doing things. And now he's locked up again. I mean, it must be horrendous for people. I mean, what have you missed out on? Because I know you've had to cancel some. There must have been some tours and some speaking dates cancelled.
Oh, yeah, it's affected me in a major way. I was due to go to Australia to do a speaking tour just before all this madness broke, and that had to be cancelled at great financial loss to myself. And the airline have said, don't worry, you can just rebook the dates and fly another time. Well, that's no good when you don't know when these ridiculous restrictions are going to be lifted. And also, if what we hear about mandatory vaccinations having to be brought in before people can travel internationally again is true, then I'll never be getting on a plane again in my life. I'll be living out the rest of my days in England, because I will not be taking a vaccination under any circumstances. I would rather die. So there's that. I was in the middle of moving house, negotiating a house move. That's all had to be put on hold. All it's going to take now is somebody in the chain to get a bit worried about their financial situation the longer this goes on. And if they pull out, the entire chain collapses, which means I can't move house. We were due to have a family holiday. I've had speaking engagements cancelled. So that's my personal situation. I know everyone's got a story to tell like that. I mean, I really feel for you being housebound for the last couple of years. This situation is affecting people in different ways, because I've heard from a lot of people who have full-time jobs or had full-time jobs where they would turn up to a workplace. These jobs were stressful. They'd be out of the house for a long time. They'd only ever see the house at weekends. And at the start of this lockdown period, some of these people were saying, oh, well, this isn't too bad. Got a bit of time at home now. I can do some work in the garden and do that DIY, put those shelves up that I never normally have time to do. But I wonder if they're feeling the same way now, 4 weeks into it. And as this thing goes on, I wonder if they're going to be as enthusiastic about being kept at home when the novelty of it has worn off. And one thing that really pisses me off is this implication that doing everything remotely and doing everything by screen is just as good as the real thing. This is the way it's being sold to us. We've got, public announcements and ads, and it's all these happy, smiley, shiny people saying, isn't it great? We can stay in touch with friends and family by Skype or Zoom or, WhatsApp or whatever. Well, it's not the same. We need social contact. Humans are social animals. What is this situation doing to people who had mental health issues before all this broke? What about people that were reliant upon social contact with others and maybe counselling sessions where they would turn up and have a dedicated counsellor that they could speak to and, express themselves to? Now they've got to do all that by a bloody computer screen. And we had this stupid concert at the weekend, the One World concert, which they might well have called the New World Order concert.
Yeah, pedo pop stars, you mean?
You what?
Pedo pop stars.
Yeah, well, basically, yeah. With all these sirs, Sir Paul McCartney, whoever he is, Sir Mick Jagger, Sir Elton John, all paraded, all these Lifetime actors just brought out and instructed to do their thing. And I mean, how shit is that? Just looking at a screen again and looking at these musicians supposedly performing from their living rooms. I mean, aren't we told that you're supposed to isolate with your own family, the people you live with? Isn't the official advice that you're not supposed to have anyone else in the house?
Yeah, but
Are we supposed to
all these guys in the spare room, in the wardrobe, they've got a full camera crew, including 4K cameras and really expensive lighting, just waiting to be used.
Yeah, I mean, do we believe that Mick Jagger hooked up his own live feed and he plugged all the cables in and he knew exactly what to do technically, yeah? Is it not far more likely that they've got armies of bloody technicians and engineers in the house, which goes against the advice that they're giving to everyone else? And, the implication is watching all these old farts performing from their living room on your bloody computer screen is just as good as being at a concert with 10,000 people with that vibe and that atmosphere and all the rest of it. When you've been cooped up in the house for 40 odd days, you've had no social contact with any of your friends and family, apart from the ones you live with, and all you've been doing is looking at a bloody screen. I mean, what could be more depressing than another night in the house looking at a bloody screen? It's not the same. And if this is the new reality that they're trying to push and they're trying to get us all used to, it's not a reality that I'm interested in being a part of.
It's not real, is it? It's not a reality at all. It's just it's one step towards being what we are in the Matrix, which is just human batteries, just power. We're feeding sludge. I mean, this is what we've got ourselves. How surprised are you, if you're surprised at all, how easy it's been for people, for them to implement this, and how people have been acquiesced towards it? Are you a little bit? I'm a little bit disappointed in people. What about yourself?
I'm hugely disappointed in humanity for taking this, bearing in mind that it's happening all over the world, most countries around the world. There's been very little kickback, very little resistance from what I can see. There were some demos that took place in America in certain states. I see there was a demo in Berlin. I've not seen evidence of much else. I mean, I keep an eye on YouTube and social media feeds and stuff, and I would think that stuff would come across my radar if kickbacks were happening. It's disappointed me, and it surprised me how people have just cooperated with this absolute madness. If you told people at the start of the year that we would be living this way, that the only thing that is left for you to do in the day is to go to the supermarket to buy supplies, and even that becomes a fucking ordeal because you have to stand outside with 50, 100 other people, and you get some jumped up twat on the door giving you permission to come in and telling you where you got to stand and what direction you got to move around the store, and you got to stand on these stupid bits of tape when you go to pay. If you told people we'd be living this way at the start of the year, they wouldn't have believed you. All pubs gone, all restaurants gone, music concerts, sports games gone, holidays gone, flights gone. I mean, it's absolutely fucking unbelievable what they've been able to implement. And you know, the only thing that's more unbelievable is that people have just accepted it, meekly acquiesced with it. And I know this is down to the vast majority of people buying the lie that we've got this deadly virus pandemic going around. And if you stand less than 2 meters next to that person in the supermarket queue, they could sneeze on you and you could die instantly on the spot. It's just so tragic that people have bought these absolute provable lies, and they've not thought to go away and research these things for themselves, because the vast majority of people still believe that governments care about them and that governments are there to serve their best interests, and that the BBC and all these mainstream media outlets are there to tell the truth. I mean, it's just incredible to me to have to acknowledge that people still live with this kind of mindset. All these institutions are proven liars. They've got a track record of lying every time they open their fucking mouths. And, you know, why would it be any different this time? So it's just tragically inconceivable to me that people have bought this and are prepared to put up with these despotic, fascistic, tyrannical invasions of their freedoms and rights.
And what do you make of the videos and nurses dancing about, and then when we get the applause of the NHS or whatever it's supposed to be? It's been hijacked by the NHS. I think the NHS have rented the rainbow from the gays because it now seems to be an NHS thing. So perhaps they've got a share on the rainbow now. I don't know, but all these dancers, and they're all stood about and they're on. They're not social distancing, and they're supposed to be in a war zone, and all this stuff is just coming out. I mean, it just beggars belief that people are actually believing that there's a pandemic going on, and that these nurses have got enough time, to rehearse. I mean, if you're doing a 30-second dance, that takes some rehearsing. We roll with 3 DJs. We've worked with dancers and things like that in entertainment. We know what it takes. It takes coordination, choreograph. It needs to be choreographed, and then it needs to be rehearsed. And all this is while they're in a war zone. I mean, it's just crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's straight mockery. It's morbid, satanic mockery of the profanity and the ignorance of the masses. Because when you go far enough up the chain of command, what you find is that the controllers of this narrative, the architects of this monumental deception, are dark occultists, and they adhere to dark occult ritual and these religious belief systems that they have. And part of that involves them mocking what they perceive to be the ignorant, profane masses, and they're rubbing our noses in it, and they're giving anyone with more than half a bloody brain cell and 2 eyes to see what's going on. They're giving you an opportunity to know that you're being lied to, and they're taking the piss. So when you see these supposed NHS workers doing their little song and dance routines in hospitals that we're told are overrun with virus patients, and they're at creaking point, they just can't cope, and yet, as you say, the staff seem to have time to rehearse their little dance numbers and learn their lyrics and dance around and film it. It's who really believes that these are genuine staff that are working under those kind of conditions? And what I would like to know is who these people are, because as far as I'm concerned, they're fucking traitors, and they might like to spend a bit of time considering what is going to happen to them when they leave this life and when they have to answer karmically for the behaviors they've undertook in this life. They're blatantly mocking the enforced slavery of everyone else on earth against their will, against their natural rights. And all these actors, all these people that are driving the narrative, like these government ministers and supposed health professionals that are just spinning blatant lies and deceptions, they know what they're doing. What do they think lies at the end of this thing for them? Bill Gates. I mean, how does he imagine this is going to end for him? I know they've got their dark, twisted, satanic belief systems, but it's pretty much guaranteed that it's not going to end very well for these individuals when they come to answer for the actions that they've employed in this life. I draw a small amount of comfort from knowing that they're all going to pay a very heavy price for this.
Karmically, somewhere they've got to, haven't they? I mean, there has got to. I sometimes sit here and think there's got to be some of the people that there's got to be some sort of retribution for their soul. And if you're a spiritual, I mean, there will be, mate. There will be. Soulless people are for them. I don't think they've just not got a soul, or they can't discover their own soul. that's probably it. They've lost it. But yeah, we were talking before the show, and we like we said, we've done tons of shows on this, and you like you said, you've done some shows, you've been on other shows and talked about this, and we didn't want this to sort of just become noise in an echo chamber and the same old thing. So you were talking about wanting to discuss some solutions to what we're going through now. I mean, have you any ideas on that line?
Well, yeah, I think the time has come to start talking about solutions. These are the kind of discussions we all need to be having. I think we're 3 or 4 weeks into this now, and those of us that are into alternative research and seeking the truth and thinking for ourselves, and who don't believe the mainstream media, we've looked at all the evidence to prove that this whole thing is a put-up job. It's all a con. You know, we've heard from doctors like Andrew Kaufman and many others that have told us that viruses are not what the mainstream is telling us they are. They can't be passed from person to person. We know about Event 201, the simulation exercise that happened in October, a couple of months before this thing broke. We've got enough evidence to know, to be able to prove to anyone that this whole thing is a monumental scam and is being used to justify bringing in all kinds of draconian measures, New World Order master plans that they've wanted to introduce for so long. So the time has come now for us all to grow a pair and stand together shoulder to shoulder and formulate some strategies for resisting this. Because if we don't, the future that they've got in mind for us and our children doesn't bear thinking about. I've got kids and I'm not prepared to let them live in the nightmare scenario that is planned for all of us if we just sit around on our asses and do nothing. So, yeah, we need to have discussions about what we can do to fight back. Now, it is not an easy question to answer. It's a very big question. I don't claim to have all the solutions. I have never placed that much value in demonstrations and, you know, taking it to the streets. But I think in this case, large numbers of people getting out there and making a very public display of the fact that they do not consent to having their freedoms and their rights taken away, and that we know this whole thing is a lie and we can prove it. I think there could be some value in that. So there have been some suggestions that on the 1st of May, which is next Friday, and that is a day which has long been associated with demonstrations and protests of different sorts, particularly in London, large numbers of people take to the streets in large towns and cities all over the UK, and this can happen in other countries as well, and just make a very public display of the fact that we're not having it. And if many, many people turn up to these things, nobody's going to get picked off and made an example of. You know, if 2 or 3 people turn up, then the police are just going to, you know, take them away. But if 500 people or 1,000 people or even more turn up, then that could be a very powerful thing. So I think the time has come to make that public message. Then on top of that, another strategy, which is completely different, involves an area that I don't know if you guys have much knowledge of, but it's kind of connected to common law, the freeman of the land thing, I guess, and it involves serving notices of liability to these evil, sick motherfuckers that have been the architects of this whole thing, and sending them legal documents, or legal in the sense of common law, natural law, universal law, and letting them know in no uncertain terms that they are going to be held accountable personally for the role that they've played in unrolling this tyranny. So I'm talking about government ministers need to get this. You know, this needs to go to Boris Johnson, Matt Hancock, Dominic Raab, Chris Whitty, the bloody medical expert, so-called, that they wheel out. Maybe even serve it to the Queen. Send it to Jacob Rothschild. You know, send it to the Director General of the BBC that have been perpetrating all these lies. Now, this is where we could certainly do with some input from people that understand this subject area and would know how such a notice would need to be worded and how the whole thing could be made to stick. And I'm certainly out of my depth there because it's a very complicated subject area. So I don't know if you guys know much about this or if anyone viewing this does, but we could certainly use some suggestions about whether letters, notices of liability served to these people to say, if you do not roll back these lockdowns with immediate effect and restore our natural God-given freedoms, then you will be held accountable for the damage that you're causing. And this would include things like how many suicides do we think are going to take place during this period from people that just get so utterly depressed at the desolation and the loneliness of being in their house and mental
of course,
health issues?
they're not knowing whether they've got a job they're going to have a job to go to, or whether I had a letter from somebody who owns a business just as this lockdown started, a listener, and he said, I'm going to have to make an application. I'm going to have to go to the bank and ask for a £30,000 loan to get me through. I've got a small ethical business. I employ 10 people. All that's all gone. He says, I don't know what I'm going to do. It's just, so they people are being financially cut off. They're being mentally cut off. It's a huge attack from all sides. And then the screens that you're watching, they're telling you also, they're forcing the way. If you don't want to know what the official line is, that they'll force that. It'll be on your Facebook. Something will come up on your Facebook, and it'll say, "This has been proven. It's fake. It's fake news," and you can't click on it to find out for yourself. You just you click on the thing, and it tells you why, and it's usually some nonsense.
Isn't it just insane that you can post a video on YouTube debunking the official narrative of this COVID-19 bullshit and presenting evidence to show how the whole thing is a lie, factual, documentary evidence, and YouTube will still put up a banner underneath saying COVID-19, get the latest news and information, as if anyone that's gone to your video to get the alternative view is going to go, oh, well, let's just see what the official line is on it. It's absolutely insane. I mean, I know it's done by AI bots that just place the bloody thing there, but it's completely ridiculous. And, people are being separated from their relatives. So a lot of elderly people we hear are being hospitalized, and we're told they've got to be quarantined off from everyone else. And, people's elderly parents are dying in these quarantine centers or these hospitals, and their sons and daughters are not allowed to go and see them and say goodbye for a final time. It's just intense cruelty and inhumanity, and again, there's going to be a heavy price to pay for all this.
The one that really struck me, Mark, was people who have got some kind of lung or breathing disorder, and being around Sheffield, as Jason and I both are, there's a lot of mining areas, so there's a lot of people got breathing difficulties, that sort of thing. But what the doctors were telling us was that these patients were going to hospital and they were putting them on a COVID ward because they'd got a lung complaint. Now, surely, if this thing was real and these people could actually catch this, and it is a lung disorder, they're probably the most endangered people in the world to be near somebody who's got it, let alone be put on the same bloody ward. It's a bit like a girl who's just had an abortion being in the next bed as a woman who's just had a baby, and another one who's just lost her baby. It's just insanity.
It's just another reason why the whole thing is completely ridiculous. And we're told that, a vaccine is going to be the cure to this, and we're not going to be able to go back to full normality until a vaccine comes along, with Bill Gates behind it. Surprise, surprise. He's bloody everywhere in this. But, when you speak to alternative health practitioners, those that aren't on the payroll of the big pharmaceutical corporations, they'll all tell you that the key to maintaining good health is maintaining a good immune system, a well balanced immune system. And what sort of things contribute to an immune system that sees off diseases and ailments as they come along, if it's fired up properly? Well, exposure to sunlight would be one, vitamin D from the sun and fresh air, and what are we all being told? Stay inside, save lives, even though I see people are getting out in the sun, and so they should. And thankfully, people are defying these ridiculous rulings to a certain extent. And then another thing that compromises the immune system and causes it to suffer and not be able to function properly is stress and anxiety and worry and being kept in a fear-based state. And every time one of these bulletins comes on the BBC News, you get this solemn music and the newsreader with a grave look on his face, COVID-19, latest news. And they scare everyone shitless with the latest figures. This number of people have died, and lockdown could go on for months. And, what is that doing to people's mental health, the suppression of their immune system? And we're told that the lockdowns are for the safety of the people, they're for our own good. We're told that it's because governments care about us and they just want to keep us safe. I mean, anyone that can't see this is beyond salvation, beyond hope, to be honest.
You know what this all reminds me of? Can you remember the George Carlin thing when he says, oh no, there's you can't do this and you can't do that. He's talking about religion. You know, and you're going to hell and damnation, and you're always wrong, but Jesus loves you. You know, and it's that. I mean, in the past 20 minutes, Mark, you've basically spoken about my mum without knowing it. She broke her hip on Boxing Day. She'd had a day and a half, maybe 2 days, where she'd just got back into driving a car. Then all this bloody lockdown crap started. Now, my mum, my God, she might be 80, but you can't keep her indoors. She is and I mean always, 5-6 nights a week, 4-5 afternoons a week, and at least 3 mornings a week. She is not at home. So this for her is just bonkers.
Torture.
Yeah,
it is torture.
Absolute torture. And she actually rang me up today to tell me she's finally met the new warden. She lives in like a sheltered housing. She's finally met the new warden. She's worked there for nearly 2 months. And she's finally met her today. But from a distance of 5 meters.
Oh, jeez.
Fucking hell.
It's fucking unbelievable.
And then she rang me later and said, oh, you'll be pleased with me, Adrian. I've been out in the sun today. I went in the back garden for 20 minutes. Like it's a treat.
Yeah.
And I just, I'm so pleased that she'd been out. Because I'd said to her, look, Mum, you need to get out. You need some sunshine. You need some vitamin D. I'd talked to her about her immune system and all the rest of it. Because most doctors would say to you the easiest way to fight anything is to eat healthily and get plenty of rest.
Yeah. It comes to something when a trip to Lidl becomes the highlight of your day. Something's gone terribly wrong with your life when that's the case.
What you were saying before, Mark, all these adverts that come on TV, COVID-19, I was just thinking, especially the one where I don't think I've seen it for a bit, but, where it's the health secretary, is it? And he's sat there.
Whitty or Whitby or whatever his name is.
Chris Whitty, was it?
Yeah.
Whitty, yeah. And it's almost as if you put the beginning of Two Tribes underneath it, the beginning of Two Tribes by Frankie Goes to Hollywood.
Yeah.
If you put the beginning of that underneath it, that would work. That's just how it is. And then you get all these other ones where it's they're all at home and they're all making the 6 of them, and they're all from the same family. They're all making the same Sunday dinner from their own homes, and they're all on these.
And they're all cooking enough for fucking 6 of them.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to think that's just great, that we can see our friends and family in the corner of a computer screen. And here's another thing. All these commercials that we now have saying stay at home, save lives, and don't worry, we can all connect via Skype and you can still see your friends and family. And you've got all these smiling actors waving at each other on the screen. I mean, for a start, where's the social distancing there when they had to go to a studio to record it? But how long would it have taken to record these commercials? I was having this conversation with Crow 777 Radio. I guessed it on his show. It's going out tomorrow, I think. And he was saying that he's got friends in the business that have said to produce a TV commercial and get it all polished and ready to go takes quite a long time, probably a matter of weeks, not days. And these have got out very quickly. And one thing that occurred to me is how quickly all the supermarket chains got all their signage up. Nicely laminated signs saying, we're practicing social distancing. And they're all saying exactly the same thing as each other. Aren't they supposed to be rivals? Aren't Sainsbury's supposed to be against Tesco and up against Morrison and up against Asda? And yet all these shops are saying exactly the same thing. They're all telling you to go around the shop in a certain way and stand on bits of tape and social safe distance and all this. They've got these perspex screens fitted to the checkouts that fit just perfectly. So we're supposed to believe they've measured them and made them all up at the factory and got them distributed all over the land, all within a matter of days, because only a few days after the announcement of lockdown, all these stores had all their signage in place. Or is it more likely that the CEOs and the higher ups in these companies knew damn well that this was coming down the pike? Why? Because they would have been sitting on the board of the likes of the Bilderberg Group and all these other social engineering think tanks that get together every year to discuss how they're going to screw and shaft the rest of us. And we can be pretty bloody clear on what was top of the agenda at the 2019 meetings now, can't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we certainly can. And we've got a question from chat room. Can you see the chat room, Mark?
Let's have a look. Where would that be?
It should be a...
I find it comes in rows. Oh, that's from Ade. Where's the chat room?
If you just where it says private chat, next to it, there's a tab that says live comments.
Oh yeah, okay.
Just tap that and they'll all come up.
Oh yeah, I see the comments. What does Mark make of the charity appeal avalanche that is flooding all forms of media? Yeah, that's just sick, isn't it? It's more mockery. It's more rubbing our noses in it. Here we all are, cooped up in our houses, under duress, and most people have lost their livelihoods, I would say, or a great number have. I've lost my job. I had a driving job, private hire. I used to drive people to and from airports. That's gone. I won't be getting that back. So, and how many small business owners that had pubs or restaurants or small shops or whatever, they're not going to be opening again. They're just not going to be able to afford to stay in business. And what are they going to make of a message coming on the TV saying, please give to the NHS, please give what you can, dig deep. You know, every time a situation like this comes along, we have these appeals to charity, always pushed through the BBC. I see they've got some bloody stupid telethon thing happening on Friday where they've got, you know, Davina McCall and Paddy McGuinness and God knows who else coming along and acting all jolly and happy as if everything's fine in the world. Yeah, it's just sick. It's just making a mockery of our situation. And again, anyone that falls for it, people going outside 8 o'clock on a Thursday clapping for the NHS. What good do you really think that's doing? First of all, they can't hear you. Secondly, we're told we've got a safe distance and stay inside, and yet it's okay for everyone to go outside at the same time on a Thursday at 8 o'clock and clap. So they're just mocking our ignorance. Well, not us, not guys like us, but the ignorance of the general public that buy everything the BBC tells them to buy. I'm just fucking sick of it. I've had enough.
Well. Anyway, listen, it's half an hour gone. We've got you for another half an hour, so we're going to try to get the most out of you we can. We can see you wound up. And we all are, really. I mean, this is what's particularly when you know it's bollocks. I mean, it must be.
Yeah. That's the frustrating thing. It's all based on lies, all of it, and we know it's lies. And we're having to live in these ridiculous ways. I feel like I've had 4 weeks of my life robbed from me, because I've not been able to go the places I want. You know, I want to go to the pub when I choose. I want to go out for a meal when I choose. I want to go on holiday when I choose. I'm harming no one. I'm causing no loss. There's no injured party. These pubs, these restaurants, these holiday companies want to be in business. They want to be trading. They've had that decision taken away from them. Damn right, I'm mad, and everyone else should be mad too. And the only way we're going to get ourselves out of this is when enough people get mad. You know, it reminds me of the Peter Finch character in the movie Network, where he, you know, his mantra is, I'm as mad as hell and I'm not going to take it. He says, I'm a human being. God damn it. I've got rights. Everyone needs to be fired up like this right now. So, you know, going back to what we were talking about, which is potential solutions, I'd love to hear suggestions from people as to what we can all do to unite and you know, throw off this bloody tyranny that we're all under.
Well, I think it's throwing off. It's trying to get away from social media, because social media have openly said that if there's any gatherings, anybody who's organising a gathering, it's just going to be deleted from Facebook. So anything like that, it's, you know, we're all we're not only up against these. In fact, I think it's the media that we're really up against. It's the media that's holding this illusion, that's making life to this illusion. So it's those people we need to that we need to expose. But because we're so used to using all their stuff because it's convenient, and we've been given this, and look at this is great. You take a picture and then there's that portal, that creepy thing that you can get off Facebook that you put on wall, and then you walk about and it follows you about. I mean, that I don't know how more creepy it can get without looking up someone's skirt. Jumping off of the mantelpiece and looking up the skirt. I just don't know how more creepy it can get that people will accept, but they will. So how do we bypass the social media that is it really strangling us as people?
Well, yeah, it's ingenious what they've done, isn't it? Because they've told us we can't get together and assemble, and they've got no right to do that to us. It's against human rights. It's against natural law. It's against every law going. And the only way that we can communicate now is electronically via social media or via Skype or whatever. And all these things are monitored and controlled. Of course they are. They're all surveilled. I just want to address a comment or a question that somebody put in the chat there. I've lost the question for now, but they were asking about the situation in the courts in Ireland. So I posted a video earlier today, John Waters and Gemma O'Doherty emerging from the High Court in Dublin. I don't know if you guys saw this, but evidently these people are taking some kind of court action out against the corrupt government of Ireland, and they were on the steps of the courthouse earlier today delivering a very emotional speech with a supportive crowd. And I saw the video and it almost moved me to tears, because this is what standing up for your rights looks like. This is what dignity and self-respect and freedom looks like. And I made the comment on my Facebook that the UK needs legal experts of the same ilk as these two to enact something similar here. I'm quite surprised, actually, that unless I've missed it, there's not been any kind of court action, legal action of any kind launched by somebody in the UK. Like I say, unless I've missed it. And maybe you guys have had people on the show that specialize in this kind of area. I don't know if anyone springs to mind in terms of who might be able to advise what we can do by way of going through the courts to remove this tyranny.
Well, the courts in Ireland must be open, which is something that they're not here. The courts are not. And my wife's job means that she has to be in court often, and she's been in court over Skype, so she has to make a declaration that there's nobody else in room, and then she can give her evidence. To see that there's actually a building, a high court that's open, and I did see that with Gemma O'Doherty. I don't know who was it. Did she do it with? Did she do it with
John Waters? I don't know who Waters, he is, but she was together with him.
I've never heard of him. I've heard of Gemma O'Doherty. I mean, she's one feisty lass, isn't she? I mean, she run for Prime Minister. She ran in elections anyway, in Irish elections, I think, against somebody. So people doing things. I don't know.
We need people like that here in England. Where are these people? I mean, I don't know enough about that subject area, but there's got to be people.
Did you post a video today? Because if you have, Mark, it's not on your YouTube, which somehow I've managed to get unsubscribed from, by the way, without me unsubscribing.
Right. No, I posted it to my Facebook.
Ah, right. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, solutions. Fight back. We're not just going to sit around taking this, and we need to get our heads together and work out what we're going to do. And yeah, I know it's a problem when we have to do it online and it can be monitored, but sitting around doing nothing is not an option. I didn't bring my kids into the world to live in bloody 1984 meets Brave New World meets Blade Runner meets Logan's Run meets THX 1138. I just didn't do it.
Completely. Well, none of us did, would we? I mean, I'm in the situation where my daughter's 22 now, so she's, in fact, she's 23 next month. So she's, with having me as a dad means that whether she listens to it or not, she does hear it. The things that I say and the things that I have been saying, and so I think that she's at least a little bit prepared for what may happen. She is working at the moment. See, this is what I talk about, not clapping for people, and look, instead of clapping, why don't you just, if they doubled the wages, doubled the pay of people that nurses, I mean, they deserve it anyway. Right, double the pay, apart from the ones that are in the videos, and then you'll find that there aren't none that get sacked because there weren't no actual nurses in any of these videos, probably. But we need whistleblowers. We need people to come forward, and we need people to.
Well, it's starting to happen, isn't it? There's a few doctors breaking ranks. I mean, in a couple of weeks ago, it was just a few lone voices that were coming out and saying viruses aren't what we think they are. And I've noticed that every day now there's a small trickle of doctors that are coming forward. They've obviously had enough. They obviously can't keep silent anymore. Maybe they've been financially destroyed by this whole thing, so they feel they've got nothing to lose. But these doctors are coming forward and they're all saying the same thing, that you can't catch a virus the way we're told you can. They're clearly fiddling the figures when it comes to the number of so-called COVID-19 cases and deaths. They're putting on death certificates that these people tested positive for COVID-19, whatever they die of, and that's getting recorded on the death statistics, and it's getting broadcast on the BBC Evening News to create this scary idea that this pandemic is out of control. There's whistleblowers that have come forward to prove that that is happening, people that work in hospitals and such. We've had videos from people showing hospitals are empty, A&E wards, there's just nobody in there, and we're told these hospitals are overrun. There does seem to be something going on. People do seem to be dying of something, because, yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to, because I know I don't want to kind of get too far away from what I found, because you're asking about dates and satanics and when things are supposed to happen.
Yeah.
So I just happened to put in May the 1st. Right. Before that, it goes on about the satanic calendar. But it says, because you were talking about May the 1st, seeing if, people are actually going to start and get together. Yeah. I'm just reading this out and I've not read it, so this may sound a little bit wooden. April 30th to May the 1st, the evil festival dates of those that work in the dark and are controlled by darkness are April the 30th to May the 6th. Yeah. The most powerful dates are April 30th and May the 1st. It is called Beltane Festival.
Yep. Which
is all about Baal, and the practices of Jezebel and all the witchcrafty stuff. So, I think the 30th of April or the 1st of May would be a brilliant day to do it. So all we need to do
now is the satanic vibes with some positivity, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I got into all these occult dates.
I didn't want to get away from that quickly.
Yeah, well, I'll just quickly cover this and then I'll backtrack to where I was. I covered the occult dates on the show that I did with Crow that'll be going out tomorrow. There is a 40-day season of sacrifice that is observed by dark occultists, and it kicks off round about the 19th of March, which is just before the spring equinox. So these occultists observe the sun and the movements of the sun, and so the spring equinox is very important to them, and that last period of the year before the summer solstice is very important as well. So you've got this 40-day period. Right in the middle of it this year, you had Easter, and it all culminates on the 1st of May, which is Beltane, Walpurgis Nacht. Goes back to pagan druidic ceremonies, which originally were about veneration of nature and celebration of the cycles of the sun and stuff, but it's been hijacked by dark occultists. And
a lot of it came from paganism, didn't it?
Yeah, paganism. So 1st of May is an important date in the occult calendar, so it is a good date to try and offset some of this stuff. But where was I before this? I was making a point. I can't remember what it was.
That's my fault.
Can you remember?
That's my fault.
It's always your fault, ain't it?
Of course it is.
I was making a point and I've forgotten what point I was making.
I can't even remember where we were.
I was talking about glimmers of hope. So we got whistleblowers coming forward.
Doctors,
more and more doctors. And I think personally that Bill Gates's public reputation is finished. I don't know what you think, but I think there's been so much kickback against Bill Gates. I've seen his social media sites. I've seen the comments on YouTube videos of his interview with the BBC and other interviews he's done. And every single comment is Bill Gates getting absolutely savaged by people saying, "We know what you are. You're an evil little psychopathic fuck. You can shove your vaccine up your ass. We know you're Mr. Eugenics. And we're never taking your vaccine, Bill. You're finished." And, it's just thousands and thousands and thousands of comments like this.
Brilliant.
The moderators can't remove them fast enough. And I think there's been so much exposure of Bill Gates now that anything that comes with his name attached is going to have great difficulty getting off the ground, including this vaccine. They may have to roll Bill back and use somebody else to try and push this. That's a glimmer of hope for me. I think there is public opposition to vaccines. I have no idea how the percentages fall in terms of how many would reject a vaccine, but I don't think that narrative is going to be as easy to push as they would have liked, because there's been so much discussion, so much controversy over the safety of vaccines in recent years. I think there's going to be a lot of people that are very savvy and wise to vaccines that don't necessarily look at other conspiratorial aspects. And they might even buy the official story of COVID-19. But when it comes to them being forced to take a vaccine, I like to think there would be a big pushback on that. So I might be clutching at straws here. I'm looking for glimmers of hope, but there's got to be some optimism, because all we've had the last 4 weeks is doom and gloom. You turn on the evening news, you pick up a newspaper, doom, gloom, dread. And to be honest, most truthers haven't really helped in this regard, because every time I go on my Facebook page, truther friends and associates are posting different kinds of doom, gloom, and dread. We're all finished. The New World Order master plan is here. We'll never be free. The lockdowns will never be lifted. You know, how much negativity can a human mind and soul take? There's got to be some glimmers of light somewhere. And we've got to look for those.
You're on one now. You're on one of those glimmers of light. That's the.
Yeah.
I mean, the point that you made at the beginning about how it is doom and gloom, and where you've been on a number of shows, and we were doing shows when it first started. We were doing 3 or 4 shows a week, and we only do Monday and Tuesday normally. But we've been doing 3 or 4 shows a week, and then last week we did Monday and Tuesday, and then I thought, right, I'm just going to leave it. I mean, we did an After Dark one, which is when me and Ade just like do a late night thing, and where we've got a drink and we just talk nonsense. But so we did that. But we didn't do any more COVID-19 things, because I felt that, you know, we've gone over every single point that we could do. That, you know, we discussed every single aspect of who could benefit from all this. You know, whether it's Bill Gates, I think there's a number of beneficiaries. There's Bill Gates. I think that they've been, for the last couple of years, they've been conditioning us that this Elon Musk SpaceX thing is some sort of real issue rather than just CGI, which, God, you know, you're landing a rocket onto a boat. You know, a rocket that's just been into space, it's come back down and it goes into, or whatever it does, it goes into.
Who can take any of that?
Thunderbirds didn't manage that, did they?
No, Thunderbirds didn't manage that. Yeah, go on, Mark. You were saying.
I mean, who takes that stuff seriously? It's just a waste of your time and energy even looking at it.
Yeah, people do. You know, they're looking at it and all they're thinking is 5G. Yeah, don't have to pay rent at the moment. Yeah. They're just sheep.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think of the 5G issue? Because I'm not. I saw an American thing today that were very critical of Mark Steele, and anybody that's watched this show will know that I'm probably Mark Steele's biggest critic. Him and his little mates. But I saw he was apparently selling these. For $350, you could buy it were a little flash drive that you put in your computer, and that would then solve the 5G. You would be protected from 5G. I mean, how ridiculous! I mean, I don't. What do you think about the 5G issue? I know there's been a lot of online talk about it, and a lot of people been doing things like burning these 5G masts down.
Well, it seems to be a very real threat. I've heard it from many quarters, many experts, many people on the inside of the industry that have warned us that 5G is going to be absolutely catastrophic to human health. You know, it supposedly kills birds and insects and stuff, so it doesn't bode too well for us.
Yeah, but we don't need bees when we've got Monsanto, do we really?
Well, apparently not, no.
Yeah.
It all ties in, all these different master plans. But yeah, 5G is going to be devastating, or, you know, apparently it's already here. And people have been making the connection between the COVID-19 thing and 5G. And there's the suggestion that people showing symptoms that are said to be that of the coronavirus are actually suffering from symptoms brought on by 5G radiation. And that may well be the case. I mean, you know, I can't prove it either way, but that could be what we're looking at here. And there could be some diversion going on. So we're told certain hospitals are overrun with patients. We get all these scary, way out of proportion death figures. The figure just keeps rising every day, which makes any hope of a lockdown being lifted just get fainter and fainter. And yet people have been going into these hospitals and showing there's nobody there. But at the same time, you're getting testimonies from people working in other hospitals that are saying, yeah, people are in there and they are dying and it's very real and it's horrific. They've got lungs filled with water and they can't get enough oxygen and all this. So that could well be consistent with 5G radiation. It will be interesting to see whether the switch on of 5G in different towns and cities around the UK correlates with a large number of supposedly COVID-19 cases in these areas. So I just can't believe the speed with which all this has been dumped on us, to be honest. I mean, we've been talking about this for years, the likes of us. We've been warning people. We've known about the New World Order. We've known about Agenda 2030. But I don't think I ever really believed that they would go all the way with it all at once this quickly. I mean, what do you think about that? I thought if it did happen, it would happen many years into the future and it would be phased in gradually in incremental steps. They've dumped everything they've got on us all at once, and I didn't see this coming.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
I didn't see this coming either. I did believe that something was going to happen in 2020. I did think that it'd be a year that would have, that would, like 2001 is associated, everyone, 9/11 is what happened then. I thought they were going to be something that would define this year, but I had no idea that it were going to be this. And like you said, they seem to have dumped every single, everything that we were worried about, that we've been talking about for years, like you say, everything that we've been worried about, the likes of Alex Jones has been talking about in the early days about FEMA camps and all this, it's all been dumped on us in one fell swoop.
Smart grid, AI, facial recognition, 5G, social isolation, all at the same time.
All at the same time. And it makes me wonder whether Boris was the final piece in the puzzle that, that would allow them to be able to bring this off worldwide. I don't know what your thoughts on that, because we only had an election in December, and now Boris is Winston Churchill's bastard.
Well, it's interesting that we did have the election in December and Boris was ushered into office, or got to serve his term directly after that, because if you think back to 2001, 9/11, which was obviously known to be coming, you had Boy Bush Jr. that was brought into office the year before, ready to preside over that event. And then
less than 9 months, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And then in the UK, Tony Blair had just got his second term, his second Labour victory. So you had Bush and Blair in place as the figureheads for the UK and the US for this event that was known to be coming. So you got to wonder whether there was some skullduggery to make sure Boris was in office for this one. But then again, I mean, we can only speculate on this, but the situation with Boris supposedly contracting this coronavirus, who really believes that he did? One suggestion is that maybe he wasn't being as cooperative as those above him would have liked him to have been. There's talk of him, resisting putting the UK on lockdown until the last minute, until he had no choice. And people have said, oh, he was irresponsible, he should have done it sooner. What if he wasn't playing ball fully with the agenda and he was forced off the scene for a while? And reminded of his place. Like I say, I'm only speculating. I'm not saying this is definitely the case, but it's something worth considering, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah, of course it is. Absolutely, yeah. And there's the also the London Olympics thing as well, where it depicts Boris in a hospital bed with having a cough.
Yeah, the London Olympics 2012 opening ceremony.
Yeah.
People have said that one of the characters in a hospital bed resembles Boris. That whole thing was just so creepy and so unsettling. But you did have a load of kids in hospital beds, which could have been a foreshadowing of what was known to be coming. If that was the case, then 8 years ago, at least, they knew that this stunt was going to get pulled. And another thing worth mentioning is Madonna's performance at the 2019 Eurovision Song Contest, May last year. So this event used to be all sort of cheesy and crap and naff, but in recent years that's become very satanic and very dark and full of ritualistic stuff, just like all the other music shows. And Madonna did a show last year, did a performance. She's got her patch over one eye, which is her Madam X persona, and she does this song surrounded by dancers that are all wearing gas masks. Go figure. And in the song, the lyrics go, "Not everybody here is going to make it. Not everybody's coming to the future." And then she turns around and blows, and you hear this sound like the wind, and all these dancers in gas masks fall down as if they've been struck by, oh, I don't know, some deadly virus maybe. And then Madonna releases her album titled Madam X right around that time. And on the back of the album sleeve, you've got her typing away at a typewriter. And would you care to hazard a guess at the brand of the typewriter? The first name is Smith. Smith Corona.
No way.
So there's the word Corona right there. And then you've got this nonsense early on in this narrative. Tom Hanks and his wife apparently are stranded in Australia when they both go down with the virus. And Tom's making all these, tweets telling his fans how they are. And he mentions that he's played bridge with his wife and she's beat him by 201 points, as in event 201. And then he talks about this typewriter that he's got with him. Apparently he collects typewriters, and he makes a lot of the fact that he's got this Smith Corona typewriter. So there we are again with more mockery. These sick fucks are just laughing at our ignorance.
If you remember, back at the beginning of before this really all kicked off, when McDonald's was still open, they had an advert on that was "This is the rhythm of the night," which is a Corona track from the 90s.
Right.
Because it was just when this was starting, and I thought to myself, well, there you go, Corona, rhythm of the night. This is the rhythm of the night, and that was their advert. It was a slow version. Someone just singing it. This is the rhythm, but it was definitely there. So
yeah. Mark, there's 3 things I wanted to ask you because I'm aware that you need to shoot off shortly.
I can hang on for another 10 minutes, guys.
Okay. I'll just give you them all together because you can think about the first one. We've kind of got into the habit of we've got a Deadpool, and we just wondered who you wanted yours to be. So before you disappear, tell us who you want your Deadpool person to be.
Not who you want to die, just who you think might do.
Yeah, it's not who you want to die. Okay,
I had visions of
big enough piece of
Bill
paper.
Gates' head on a spike there, but you've taken that away from me.
No, it's who you think might die.
What, celebrities?
Somebody who we'd know, rather than me Auntie Ethel, who's 143 in June.
Well, I had Super Leeds sent me a text today and said that he was surprised that Ade didn't suggest him.
Not Leeds.
Yeah, Super Leeds. Yeah, he's one of our listeners. He's been listening from the beginning. He's a good lad. He's a top lad. But
that's a question for you. Just have a think about, Mark.
Well, yeah. I mean, nobody springs to mind straight away. But
okay. Well, let me go on to the next one then. Loads of people have. Including myself, seen your famous rant from last week.
Yeah.
Do you want to kind of tell people how you kind of got to that point? Because I'm with you. About 10 days ago, I said to Jason, he went, "How are you, mate?" I went, "Do you know, I'm fucking pissed off because all these knobheads being knobheads has never really affected me before, but now it fucking is doing."
Exactly.
And then we got your rant, and there are quite a few people in the chat room have mentioned that.
You used to be able to opt out of idiocy.
Yes.
You used to be able to stay outside of all the stupid sheep-like behaviours of everyone else. You could just laugh at them and think, I'm not acting that way. I'm not buying into that. I'm living freely, thanks. I'm doing my own thing. I'm doing what everyone else does. But now you have no fucking choice, like you say. And I arrived at the point last week of making that rant video. I just got back from an experience of going into the town centre where I live. And outside every shop, it was the day after Easter Monday, so people had obviously not been to the shops for a few days, so it was packed. And they're all queuing outside obediently. I didn't see any hint of anyone being upset, any hint of anyone being angered, any hint of anyone thinking it's ridiculous. They're all just meekly standing in line. and just putting up with it. And I got back and I just exploded. There was just a rage ripping through me. I had to go in the car to make the video because the kids were in the house, and I knew I was just going to let rip and just furiously explode. And I just let it all come out. And I've had so much correspondence, an absolute ton of mail since posting that video. It takes me most of each day now to go through it because I do like to respond to people. I like to do them the courtesy of replying to them. And people all over the world have said, you've articulated exactly how I feel, but I couldn't put it into words. Thank you for doing that. And this is great because it shows us that there are people out there that are not prepared to take this madness. But again, we come back to the question, well, what do we do about it? Because if this is the new normal, as we're told it is, and if we're expected to spend the rest of our lives doing this when we go into stores, people wearing masks and gloves, standing 2 meters away from the next person, standing outside the store until the twat on the door tells you can go in. I can't live like this. I'm serious. I cannot live like this. If this is what the future holds, I just can't be a part of it. Now, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm just stating that I'm not prepared to be a part of that because it's lunacy, it's idiocy, there's no common sense.
No, exactly.
There's no dignity. Where's people's dignity? It's humiliating to stand in a line like that. You know, it's like you're in a concentration camp and we've done nothing to warrant this. We don't deserve this. We've done no harm collectively, but we're being held in collective punishment. And I cannot live like this. So it's got to change as far as I'm concerned, because I was furious then and I can feel the anger rising back up in me now. And I meant every word. And to be honest, you know, I would rather just not be in this world if that's what this world is going to become.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Jason's often sitting there, you know, flippantly going, just say no, just say. But I think that is the only thing people have got to do. Yeah. Just say no. No, I'm not staying at home. No, I'm not going to stand in a queue. No, I'm not going to keep 2 meters away. And no, I'm not going to use your shop if that's how you operate.
How about all the pub owners, all the small business owners, all the small restaurant owners of the land just saying that on a particular day, we're all going to open our businesses. And if they all did it together, what could the authorities do? There's only so many cops they could send round to try and force them to close again. If they all came together and said, I've had enough of this, I'm not going to lose my business. Who are these people to tell me that I can trade? I'm going to choose to open my business. Then those people that want to come and eat or drink at my establishment can. And those that want to cower away in terror in their homes behind masks, terrified that somebody might breathe on them and they'll die, can stay at home. That's their choice. You know, we used to have choice. We used to have free will. We still do have free will as free sovereign beings in creation. But these sick, evil fucks that think they own us and they think they can call the shots in terms of our daily lives are trying to take that away from us. So wouldn't it be great if, you know, pub owners and shop owners all came together and said, you know what, we're opening. Fuck you.
Alice has put a question. Are there enough of us to stand up? My answer to that is, about 7 billion of us. Yeah.
Well, I mean, are there enough awake people, awake and aware? And also you need a bit of a backbone, don't you, to stand
you
up?
need somebody to be adult enough to take responsibility.
They need to grow up. They need to be grown up.
Yeah. Be mature adults, higher-minded adults that take a bit of personal responsibility for their situation, recognize that they have an inherent right to freedom. So I don't know how many people there are with that kind of understanding. We've got the numbers in terms of the masses, but the masses, you know, includes all the BBC watchers and all the mask wearers. Yeah. So, I don't know if there's enough awake and aware ones, but now is the bloody time to find out.
I mean, Jason was right earlier when he said it's just all been dumped in one go. And at first, I thought, no, they won't do that. Surely not, because it's just too much. You know, people are surely going to work it out. And yet, they're all sat there in their houses and I'm thinking, what the fuck's got to happen? What really, really has got to happen before people go, hang on a minute.
How much worse could it get? The architects of this narrative must have been very, very confident that they've got the world brainwashed and mind controlled and softened up enough to be able to pull this, because this could have been their undoing. If they hadn't judged it right, and if they'd underestimated the general public's awareness of what they're all about, this would have finished them. So they must have been very confident that they've got us just where they want us, collectively speaking, to have pulled a stunt as audacious as this. Because, if they got it wrong, it would have been game over. And it's very depressing to see that it hasn't been game over.
Yeah, it still could be, though. It still could be game over, couldn't it? I mean, it
could be.
What do you make I mean, there are people that are still clinging on to the fact that, still clinging on to the hope that President Trump's going to drain the swamp, as he said, and they keep on making excuses up for why it's not happened yet and why we're not seeing any reports. But this is what's happening behind the scenes. What do you make of that?
Well, I think it's a narrative that's been created to have this false savior meme going around, and to have people think, oh, it's okay, we don't have to do anything because Trump's a good guy. He's just, embedded himself in the political system because he just wants to help us all out. And he's got Q on his side, QAnon, and there's the white hats, and, they've got our backs, so we don't have to do anything. So it's a way of people just sitting back and thinking, oh, well, everything's going to turn out great, without them acknowledging that we collectively bear the personal responsibility to stand up for what's right and stand up for our freedoms. We have to do it. Nobody's going to do it for us. So we have to find a way of making this happen. But you are right in that it could go either way. It is not a done deal yet. And wouldn't it be fantastic if this whole thing does backfire on the evildoers? And in the fullness of time, enough people do wake up to their true nature and do rise up and do topple them, and we take back our freedoms. It could still go that way. It's not a done deal yet. History is being written every single day. We just got to make sure we're on the right side of it and we make it go the way we want.
But as Mussolini once famously said, blood alone moves the wheels of history. What's your reckoning? How do you think it'll rectify itself if it does go our way? How do you think it will rectify itself? And do you think that we're going to have blood on the streets, shall we say, people fighting each other, perhaps even a civil war? I don't know.
Well, I mean, I hope it doesn't come to that, because that would just be more devastation and more darkness and more violence. If it's going to kick off anywhere like that, it would probably be in America, where people have guns. And I think the general population there does have a better understanding of true rights and freedom than we do in the UK. And having a gun by your side tends to help, it seems. I hope it doesn't come to bloodshed in the streets. I don't know what form a change in the whole situation would take, but maybe that's the point. Maybe we're in uncharted territory here. Humanity has never been at this point before, and we are writing the way it all pans out. It is down to us.
Yeah, completely down to us. Completely down to us. Matt, I don't know how long you've got left.
Can I just hit Matt with my just final question that I wanted to ask?
Sure.
And when we did when I pulled those dates up and you said, oh, we're doing a show and it's got all those dates in it, can you just tell us exactly what that is, when we can hear it and where we can find it?
Yeah, well, that's going out tomorrow on Crow 777 Radio. So this is the researcher known as Crow and his co-host Jason Lindgren. It's at crow777radio.com. And the first hour of the show is free to everyone, and he puts that up on YouTube. And then the second hour is just for subscribers, and that's where we go very deep, and it's uncensored, and we say anything that needs to be said. So I went into all that stuff on the show. That'll be going out tomorrow. So if people go to crow777radio.com and then catch the first hour there.
Cool.
Well, you can subscribe to us as well, by the way.
Yeah,
yeah.
No,
Raconteurs news, yeah.
We've got record numbers tonight, which is for us is just it's just been a revelation. It's gone over 100 for the first time, and which means that that I made I made a promise that as soon as we got over 100 listeners, I was going to quit. I was going to stop.
You did.
I did.
Well, we can all go down the pub. Oh shit! No.
Yeah, we can all. Yeah, we can all go out pub. I did. What have I got? I've got some stuff written down. I think we've just about covered everything. Okay.
Shall I just go in the live chat and pick one more question if there's?
Yeah, go on. Fine.
Just if you've got a Deadpool to give us, that would be good.
Deadpool. Well, Ringo Starr's not going to stick around forever, is he?
There you go. That's not a bad shout, actually. Write that down.
And a Corona is like a ring. It's a kind of ring.
See, I went for Simon Cowell.
I mean, Paul McCartney's going to last forever, but Simon Cowell. No, I think Simon Cowell's too much of an asset, isn't he?
Well, I don't know at the moment. If you look at him at the minute, I think he's got cancer. He's also got that very, I don't know, humble. He's got kind of an aged humbleness about him that only people who know they've not got long to live get.
Okay. Well, we'll keep an eye on that one.
Yeah. That was just my thought.
Super Leeds has changed his, because you were coming on tonight, Mark. He changed this to Fall McCartney.
Yeah, so, fall. Pride comes before a fall.
Yeah.
There you go. He'd probably be a coronavirus. So we're going to put you down for Ringo Starr then, are we?
Yeah, put Ringo Starr down. Why not?
By the way, the winner gets their
probably nothing.
A raccoon hand puppet. For raccoons. all our people that watch us are raccoons. So there we go. A raccoon hand puppet for the winner there of that. So Mark has gone for Ringo Starr.
Yeah, why not? I was looking for a question there, but most of the comments seem to be, comments rather than questions. So,
yeah, it's weird because sometimes, Mark, we get genuinely, good questions, and other times it's like everybody else in our virtual pub, if you like, is completely ignoring us three and just doing their own thing.
I better dive off now, fellas. But thank you for having me on. I've enjoyed it. I think it's been a very worthwhile show. And I mean, like I've said so many times this evening, the time has come to just stand up to this and find some ways of fighting back.
I think be adult is the thing, isn't it?
We don't want to sit here talking about the problems week after week, do we?
No.
We know what the problems are. Let's do something about it now.
Yeah, it's time to show us how big your balls are, basically, people. That's what it is. Get out there and do it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Mark. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for giving us an hour and 13 minutes of your time, your precious time. Just tell people what you're doing next. Are you got any shows coming up, or are you going to be doing any your DJ shows and stuff like that?
Well, I mean, I was supposed to be doing loads of speaking engagements and gigs and stuff, and everything's cancelled. Everything for 2020 is cancelled. I thought I would use this lockdown time to start writing the next book. So the plan was to start work on Musical Truth Volume 3, because I've got a ton of notes, but I find I just can't concentrate. I just can't knuckle down and put this situation out of my mind and concentrate on anything.
Yeah.
So it's not going too well. That's the next project for me. But for as long as all this is going on, then I just find it very hard to focus. So other than that, I'm putting up videos of shows that I do and my rants and stuff on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/MarkDevlinTV, and everything else is at markdevlin.co.uk. I've just put out a new book, which is a novel. It's called The Cause and the Cure, and it's like an allegorical, symbolic novel set in Oxford in 1990, and it's full of coded layers. So that's on Amazon if anyone wants to get that, or if they want to reach out to me, I've got copies here. So that's about where I'm at the moment.
Brilliant. Well, thanks, Mark. Thanks for coming along. We really appreciate it. Like I said, we've had record numbers tonight. We're only a very small little operation here, and I know that you people are after your time all the time. So thanks for coming on. Thanks for making the time.
including
Cheers,
my wife.
Yeah. Thanks to your wife and kids for putting up with Raconteurs News, Mark.
Yeah, I better get back to them now. All right, cheers, guys. All the best.
Thanks.
Thanks
Bye
a lot,
bye.
Mark. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.